Welcome back. This is your newspaper review this morning, and this is most definitely K24 TV, looking at the big stories of the day. We love it when you give your feedback, of course, and your views on the news. So keep doing that at K24 TV or SMS us on 21222. Want to shift gears a bit from politics to matters debt, country debt that is. Debt driving Kenya to the tipping point, says the Daily Nation. Half of the loans mature in the next 12 months, and now giving the distress signs right there. Total domestic debt as at June 2019, 2.7 trillion. Total budget 3.02 trillion. Loan on which Kenya has already defaulted owed to Belgian credit company for the construction of a water supply system in Mavoko at 500 million. The gap between the country's budget commitments and its expected revenues, 607.8 billion shillings. We had the executive saying, we are broke, we need more money. We need to raise this debt ceiling if, to manage these particular projects that we have. And that was carried out right there. But most people looking at this and very wary of the fact that once the chickens come home to roost and we have to pay, how do we move forward? We'll have to go and look for another cheaper loan to pay the loan that we took before, because it seems that's a game we're playing right now as an economy. Yes. We're in the same spot. We're doing what Kenyan citizens are doing with mobile lending apps at an international level.
Listen, you must understand that. And this, I think, is sometimes where we are getting off the mark. Mm-hmm. You must understand how debt works. You must understand how international debt works. You must understand how concessional debt works. Failure to which you will think we are actually doomed. Mm-hmm. And many people talking, they will tell you, wow, all this debt, who will pay it? Who will pay it? All these roads we are building, who will pay it? You know, half of these mega projects are not for immediate gratification. You don't build a road for profit. You see the SGR that we are talking about. SGR, the SGR, Standard Gauge Railway. Most nations, in fact, it is the most common kind of railway. 56+% of global goods, 50-something, 56% are carried on SGR. Mm. The main purpose of the SGR, it is not even for human transport, it was for goods. So we must realize this fact.
But even as we talk about the SGR there's a whole issue of it being made almost a monopoly, in the sense that the truckers don't have a field to play.
No. Let me tell you. All these things will work out eventually. Will work out, trust me. Even when people are saying about truckers, we are looking at the now. With mega projects, you don't look at it that way. For you to connect SGR now, I would really move you to read of what the China Silk Road is all about. It's not about connecting cities. You're talking about connecting nations, countries. If SGR will not pass through Kenya, it will pass in another country, and you will lose out. Today, Rwanda, have they not signed a major dry port with Dubai? Why? All right. Ethiopia, why is everybody having an appetite for major projects right now? The corridor that we're talking about, East Africa, there is something.
But I think I want to push back on that, Gabriel, in the sense that, and let's talk about the SGR as well, and I'd like you to weigh in on this as well, because we're looking at the point where we're not even talking about that the infrastructure in principle is wrong, but how we're going around this. When you look at the SGR, the loan that we took,
and that's where
the contract behind it, up until now,
that's where we are going.
Still not sure it should have been brought to the house.
That's where you're going. That's where we are going. If the SGR today will sort out the mess that was at Shiakaruturi, the flower farms, right? Where their trucks would actually be late to get to the airport. Their flowers are getting spoiled on the road. When farm producers are not able to make to our neighboring markets because of the deficit that we have on our roads. See, that enabling environment is what me and you should take advantage of. I repeat, when a road is built, it is for me and you to trade on it, not the government.
That's right.
Moyale Daktari had one bus a week before the road was built.
That's right.
And the shifters, you remember?
Yes.
Today, you have 5 buses a day. What does that tell you? Who is opening that economic conduit? It isn't the government. The government built a road. The government expects me and you will trade on it. When finally, the meter gauge is advanced a little bit to go to Kisumu, when goods are going past Malaba, when they are going to Uganda, when they are going to Ethiopia, who do you think stands to gain? When a school is built, Jeff, are we expecting government to make money immediately? Listen, the school is providing knowledge, the TVETs that we are talking about, so that me and you can gain new experience and new knowledge, so that we can do things and pay taxes for government to continue. When a hospital is built, the government is not expecting to make a profit tomorrow. What happens is me and you can be fit and medically taken care of so that we can be more productive. So it is not to say, why is the government taking a loan to build this hospital? How are we going to pay this? No. It's not them. It's me and you to be fit enough to continue working. And as the government opens up, we are able to inject our vitality in creativity and use that ecosystem that has been built to ensure that taxes are paid. I have had so many people making a lot of fuss. And daktari, they are driving on the road, Mheshimiwa, and they are calling, you are on a road that was made by 5-something billion, and you are complaining.
Honorable Gakuya, let me bring in on this as well.
You must be,
because I do know
able
Gabriel.
to connect. No. You must be able to connect. By the way, over 30 years, can you imagine the kind of deficit that we have when it comes to development? At some point, by the way, Jeff, take it the same way you take your house environment. When you take a loan, don't you sacrifice?
Yes.
When you send your child to school, do you wake him up in the morning and you start, Baba, utanilipa deni lini? The kid is in standard 3. Go to school. Go to school. I'll educate you to university. So that what? This man is able to think critically and be able to become a sober person in society, able to run businesses, able to, come to terms with the society that we've created and the dependabilities of the 21st century. That is why we go to school.
Honorable Gakuya, let me bring in this as well, because even as Gabriel Muthuma speaks about the fact that we need this infrastructure now, but you look at the debt that we have on our plate and the economic indicators with, companies laying off staff, people, the registrar of companies saying people are closing shop. And the indicators are saying a different story. The taxman saying that 57 out of every 100 shillings will go to pay debt. How are we going to develop and move forward in this particular scenario, Honorable?
Yeah, one thing, let me say that, in fact, as I partly concur with Mudoma, I would also want a government that is cautious. Because for sure, loans are good. Because loans are to make you prosper, move to the next level. But at least you need also to borrow in a controlled manner. Because you may borrow haphazardly and find yourself in a situation whereby you are in total embargo, you are unable to repay. It's unfortunate that, in fact, the former CS for finance was in record that, in fact, the maturity of most of the loan was in this particular year ending. And it was in the record saying he's going to borrow 100 billion, 80 to be chained to the debts, and 20 to be put locally for development. Then the big question which clicks is that, in fact, yes, should we borrow to develop and then we borrow to repay? Then I find myself in an embargo. Because surely we must be having a structure that we are sure of. And in fact, we must not be imaginary that our correction of revenue domestically is unimaginable. We must be sure that, in fact, our targets locally domestically is this much, so that we don't give pressure to the KRA, a pressure that is not functionable. Because now we have never been able to meet our targets. KRA, for the last 3 good years, has never met their target. And you know what happens? We base our county's disbursement through our local corrections. So when the target goes down, you have to clear with the counties. Whether there is a deficit or not is upon you. So I think one thing is that, in fact, we must not go beyond what we can be able to harness from within ourselves.
Right.
We must be within our needs. Then as we borrow, we must borrow very sure that, in fact, our repayments are not going to give the country a lot of pressure.
Right.
Because surely, if the repayments of these loans are going to give pressure to the country to a tune where you are going to pressure your people in terms of what we call areas of taxing them to a tune that actually will make everybody, that actually everybody is dry. It is very unfortunate. Today, Kenyans are totally different from during Kibaki's time. During Kibaki's time, money was insecure. Money was everywhere. Yes. But these particular 5 years and these 2 years we are in critical situation. Right. Even the Sushaina is saying he cannot be able to make 300 a day. So it is totally difficult. Right. We must first think which process should you use, making sure that we are capable of repaying the loans, but we are not over pressuring our locals. And our locals are doing their business well. Right. Because when the common money is dead, who will pay the tax? Very
true. Dr. Halwale, let me bring in this as well, because as we've seen, nobody is saying that the infrastructure that we're creating is wrong. However, the financing that we're doing for this infrastructure is where it seems like it's biting us, because if in your household, the salary that you're getting, more than half of it is going to pay the loan, really, are you moving forward or are you working to pay loans? And that's where it seems like as a country we are at as of now.
What you're asking me begs for two questions. The first one is that is borrowing to finance this flagship project right? The answer is yes. The second one is, could there be an alternative way of doing it so that we don't get the kind of pressure we are getting? Again, the answer is yes. So what do we explain? We explain the two yeses in this manner, that borrowing to finance these flagship projects should be encouraged. There is nothing wrong with it. It only becomes a problem when issues of integrity are not addressed by the other institutions of government.
Correct.
Because if by dint of lack of integrity, money meant to finance a flagship project is then diverted, that is not a reason to say that borrowing was wrong. The second question is, what alternative ways do we have? Look at the SGR vis-a-vis the Nairobi Express, for example. The Nairobi Express now wants to finance that project through an alternative way of financing.
Exactly.
They want the express to be built, it be operated by the person who has built it, and it be transferred to Kenyans after a period of 25 to 30 years. That is the modern way of financing this kind of projects.
Excellent.
Something that these economists call PPP.
PPP.
Yeah. So the beauty with PPP is that we will not have any pressure as a nation. The Chinese, it's just that the word Chinese, many people don't like hearing it. Let's just say whoever is going to build. Right. He's going to build that expressway. And those of us who have got slightly more money to spend and who want to go somewhere and do 4 or 5 meetings in a day, we shall cruise at the cost of 300 shillings from Mlolongo to Westlands and do our business. And it is not just the fun of driving on that superhighway. You should address the interchanges. Correct. I've looked at it. They have done several interchanges. These interchanges are going to unlock traffic jams across the entire city. This is a project that we must support. Having said this, the naysayers, I was talking to a financial expert day before yesterday when I wanted to understand this thing of Nairobi Expressway. And he convinced me that due to the gridlock of traffic in Nairobi today, we waste 50 million shillings per day. This translates to 18.3 billion shillings every financial year. So if we allow these people to build this road, we will have saved 18 billion shillings from our budget. Jesus Christ. Do you know what 18 billion shillings can do in terms of one of the Agenda 4? Say, for example, manufacturing. That 18 billion will then go and revitalize the sugar industry, revitalize the tea sector, and with it, jobs are going to come and our children will move away from border to go and benefit from that employment.
Let me also ask one more
this
question.
This is the thinking that we must attract.
From this, because no one is saying that the projects are wrong, but the situation is like we probably want to do too many projects at once. When you have even the ambassador for the US,
yes, and why not?
Okay, fine.
Let me. This is very important. This is very important. This is very important.
And then you can address this as well.
Yes.
When the ambassador says, okay, fine, we had planned to start on this particular project, the Nairobi-Mombasa Expressway, and now, but let's give it 2 years. Put your debt levels in order first, and then we can revisit this project. We are still there, but clearly there seems to be an issue with our debt levels. So when you're getting that from people who are also going to be in this particular project, should we just first stop and see how many things we have running, and then from there, cut our,
Never.
Even China themselves, we have found a delegation led by President going to look for expansion finance from Naivasha to Kisumu, which was turned down. So at least we also need to look to that lead flag of our borrowing.
Okay, let's Dr. address those two issues, please.
Yes, the easier one is the one you've just brought in towards the end. The issue of cancellation or the delay of the project. Don't confuse politics with the reality on the ground. I don't think the Americans cancelled that project because of ability or inability to pay.
That was a statement from the ambassador.
No, they are creating pressure so that the judges and political leaders who are in office and they are drug dealers, so that the government can then hand them over. I can assure them, all of us who are in the previous parliaments, we even have the list of the people who are supposed to be handed over to the US so that the US can allow us to do business. They are there. And because they are still in office, the Americans are turning the screws to make sure that the government responds.
The government is supposed to hand over?
It should hand over these guys. Because America takes drug trafficking.
What assurance is there?
No, it takes it very seriously. You'll remember that in Panama, when the head of state of Panama was joking around in drugs, they went actually and arrested him from State House. Noriega. So that is how serious they are. And I have been in Panama. Thanks to that particular activity, the Panamas have so much confidence in the thinking of the Americans that you find the dollar, the American dollar, is the money that people of Panama themselves would prefer to trade with.
But also, Honorable Gakuya has also brought in a very valid point in the fact that it's not only America with the drug dealers, as you say, but also China that has had an appetite to give money is also slowing down and asking you, okay, fine, just let us deal with what we have first.
It is cold.
And at the same time, as he answered that, also my big other question is, must the mutual agreement be based on a conditionality that, in fact, was not there before the agreement? Because I think that was an afterthought. Because the video is an afterthought. Because already America is the one which invited the Kenyan delegate to America for this negotiation. And they agreed that actually they are going to fund that Mombasa highway. All of a sudden, they have changed their mind. Should we peg on such terms and conditions that we must do this so that I can do this?
Yes, it is something they call the global village. We now live in the global village where everything affects everything. This Nairobi Express Highway, for information, did not come with Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. It was a Kibaki project. Only that the Australian company, I think it was called Strabag, the company that was given had integrity issues.
Strabag is Germany.
It's Germany, yeah. Australia and Germany are more or less the same place. So they had serious integrity issues. And because of global village, then people said, if this company was misbehaving in village X, it is also going to misbehave in Nairobi. So as you see them change by dint of new information coming, it doesn't mean that they don't like Kenyans that much. May I answer your first question very briefly? You raised the issue of why can't we wait this project to get finished before we do the other one. That was the thinking we had before 2003. I remember when Kibaki and Michael Kijana Wamalwa campaigned and told people that we were going to give free education. Kanu was telling us that it is not possible. How will you manage? So if President Uhuru and Ruto, in their friendship, in their connectivity with the international community, have a way of doing not just not just the standard gauge railway line, but other projects. Let us do them. I mean, you cannot tell a child that because I have served you with rice and you would have preferred to have some chapati, let us just be contented with the rice because chapati will bring. No. You express love for your children by giving them all that they require. We want Kenyans to get investment in education, investment in health, investment in manufacturing, and investment in food. You cannot wait and tell them, look, we borrowed or we are doing business on standard gauge railway and therefore you go and sleep on an empty stomach. No.
Okay, and let me bring Gabriel in before we move in. Let me just bring Gabriel in on one issue.
I just want to just a small line that I totally concur with the Halawale in one area. Yeah. That in fact, in the element of these flagship projects, because we needed them like yesterday, we need to go PPP. Because one thing, the PPP will not give any pressure to the country. No. Right. Because you are making a road, use the toll, that toll of the vehicles will be paying something, and then at the end of the day you get your repayment. Let us move to those areas where we will just remove what we call economic pressure.
Right. Gabriel, let me bring you in on this as we wrap up this particular issue because of time. Because people are looking at the fact that all these projects, at the end of the day, are supposed to stimulate the economy, bring economic growth. Correct. Yes. But as it stands right now, what we are seeing is even the companies that should be, getting benefits even from the SGR, Finlay's, closing farms and all of this, seems like we have the projects that should stimulate the economy, but the economy isn't responding to what is in place.
Jeff, I've told you a term called the delayed gratification. At this point when, the entire country is looking like a construction site, there's going to be disruption. And this disruption...
Is this what we're experiencing in terms of the layoffs and all of this that's happening?
Some of this will be. And I'm not saying that we should not look at our tax regime. That is something that we need to start having a conversation around. You see, places like Dubai, they've opened free economic zones, where they say, if you're hiring about an uptick of 300 to 400, employees, then we need to look at your tax bracket. The reason is it is actually, it's more of a colloquial economic way of saying, we will work and see how we are going to cap your taxes because you are employing so many people. You are bringing in a lot of interns. So there's an economic uptick that you're taking in your company. So we will look at that. And how you do this is majorly playing around knowing that, Jeff, while employed, you'll still pay income tax. Right. You'll pay other taxes.
You'll still get that money somehow.
They'll get that money somehow. So is this something that we need to start talking about when companies will come and tell you, what, we are paying, like Coca-Cola, I know they had that issue of being taxed twice on sugar. Right. And it was a big deal for them because they were using a lot of sugar for their product, and they would feel at some point they are being taxed at the product level, and sometimes they are being taxed to bring in the sugar. So you can see that element of double taxation. So those are some of the things that the government will be able to sit down and fine-tune. When a company says, what, your neighboring country is giving me this tax option, what is it they can do? So the government should not be very rigid when it comes to the tax regime, right? If that be it. But then again, there's the borrowing that you're talking about, which I agree with both Gakuya and Honorable Gakuya and Daktari. When they say if the PPP way is the way to go, there is also an element of the terms of agreement that must actually be validated. Right? The first one, like he said, is the time frame. And also, what does the terms of agreement stipulate? For the SGR, I'm still telling you, we have a problem because the TOA, from what I've heard, I've not done deep research into it, we were to carry goods to the optimum level of 80%. All right? Because when they sat down to do the financial feasibility study, it says this one will pay gradually if only this amount on this capacity is, by the way, SGR is actually made to do double stacks. So it is a very traditional way of carrying goods in our century. So if the terms of agreement are all set, then we are sorted. Even in PPP, we have to tell the person putting in the money, this is the amount of traffic you should expect on these roads. Right. All right? And we have to live by that. If we are not going to live to those terms, and all of a sudden you have a super magnificent expressway that only 4 cars are using after every 1 hour, then obviously
that's where the problem
we've not lived. So as we talk about these great PPP plans, concessional loans, whatever you have, we must also stick to the terms of agreement. We must ensure that this road, and by the way, if investors see, even local investors will start, ganging up to say, we will take this amazing infrastructure and we'll go out there and look for money because we are seeing how it will pay off. And finally, if we are borrowing to develop, I will continue supporting it. The borrowing you should run away from is the borrowing we are getting money from outside to pay recurrent expenditure.
Okay, because of time, Jim, we have to come to a close.
A small one. I want to agree with my brother. Kenyans are very critical on social media about borrowing. Yes. They should stop. Look, for example, the money we borrowed to upgrade Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to the expectations of the Americans. You know, within a very short period, because we met that standard, KQ was allowed to go to the US.
Correct.
And the route of KQ to the US is every day carrying a minimum of 76% of the aircraft full. Exactly. So it means within the next 5-10 years, KQ will be booming on that particular route. Thanks to the borrowing that we did to upgrade the airport.
True. Okay, and of course, that's an issue that we'll also be looking at right here. But you have to draw the curtains as far as the newspaper review is concerned this morning. Quite a robust discussion indeed that has happened right here. I have to thank my panelists for coming in. Dr. Boni Halwale, thank you so much for making time this morning. Gabriel Muthuma, thank you so much for making time this morning. Honorable Gakuya as well, thank you so much for making time. Also, we got a call. I could see Jakoyo Midi was trying to call. I think you saw Dr. Halwale. And probably wanted to say, yes, wanted to say a big good morning. So, Honorable Midio as well, a very big good morning to you. Take a short break right now. We're back on the other side as we get interactive. Good morning.